spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Pancho Man. Welcome to Breakfast with Bob, our not quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas as Fuels, right fuel, right time. Hoka, Fly Human Fly, Deborah Wetsuits, Quintana Roo, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest is the only U.S. Olympic triathlete with an individual and mixed relay medal. 2021 bronze and silver medalist in Tokyo, 2019 ITU World Series champion, 2018, 2019 Super League champion. Katie Zaferes joins us. Katie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's been a nice transition so far for me.
How many days have you been retired now?
Like 4?
Do you feel different?
Just more relaxed, I think. No, I was just saying before we got started, I feel like just by having the choice of what I do each day, I'm actually doing more than I thought I would, which is not like anything big. It's just like, oh, I thought normally by the end of the season, I'm like, well, I need like 2 to 3 weeks just of absolutely no physical activity. And I'm like on the like basically the first day of retirement, I went for an hour run and I was like, oh, surprising myself.
Well, because this is who you are and what you do. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm also
So,
afraid to stop because I'm like, well, I'll never get traction again in training.
so when you're leaving Syracuse after a career there in steeplechase, were you at that point, were you thinking, okay, now it's time to move on with my life, get a job? And when did this whole idea of being a professional triathlete come to you?
It didn't, the idea didn't really come to me personally. It came to somebody else who then reached out to me. And I was recruited by Barb Lindquist at the time,
Yep.
who's fellow Olympic triathlete. But she came to me and I hadn't even, so I changed my major partway through my college. And so I had an extra year and I had an extra year of eligibility. So she actually contacted me during my senior year about doing triathlon, but I had a fifth year to go. And so it was really a seamless transition in the respect that I had ideas of what I wanted to do after, or what my original plan was with. I ended up with a physical education major,
Yep.
or K through 12, and but ultimately before triathlon, and even once approached with triathlon, I was like, well, I still might just want to go to grad school and just get into
Sure.
like what the whole pathway of like college was preparing me for anyways. So, but I am very happy because during that time, during those like 2 years, I kind of knew about triathlon, but didn't really make a decision on anything yet. The like collegiate recruitment program was evolving into something more than what it had originally started as with like Gwen, because Gwen was, I think, the first
She
athlete to
was.
do it.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, and because of her success, it started to have like go from just being given a coach and going to a camp to like for my the the time that I was being recruited was the first opportunity to actually go to like the United States Olympic and Paralympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
So at that point, dad's driving you cross country, right? To go to the training center. And there's a point where you're like a little hesitant, like the kid going off the camp for the first time, thinking, Dad, I don't know if I really want to do this. This sort of scary.
For sure, it was so scary and intimidating to commit to so much uncertainty. Like I'd never really done, I mean, I since being approached, like I'd done like age group racing and
Right.
qualified for my elite card, but like that's different than like preparing your whole life to be a professional
Yeah.
triathlete or even like a year to be a professional triathlete. And I'd
Yeah.
never done a draft legal triathlon, didn't really know about it in the Olympics. So yeah, and also the Olympics is intimidating, I think. I still think that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because it's not like you were thinking the Olympics. I'm guessing you weren't thinking Olympics when you were doing steeple. Yeah. No,
not
that
for
wasn't even,
me.
no, yeah, that wasn't even in the realm of possibility. So now it's like, okay, they're expecting me, they're bringing me out there and sort of expecting me to become an Olympic triathlete because this Gwen has done it. or is Gwen is starting to, yeah, Gwen made it to London. And after only being, I think they found her in 2010, in 2 years, she made the Olympic team. So now they're like, oh, this Katie will do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, I didn't grow up around people who were professional athletes. So it was a bit of a novel idea to be for me, like, is this a real, like, is this actually real life? Like, can you, like, because I think I just recognize how few people get the opportunity to really make it to the highest level
Yeah.
in of sport, like the Olympics, even as a professional athlete. Like, it's a very small
It's
crew.
absolutely. So when you get there, how long did it take you to realize, you know what? Okay, this is, I can do this. I don't know if I'm going to the Olympics or not, but I feel I can be competitive.
That took longer, I think, but I kind of lost sight of the whole bigger picture once I went to Colorado Springs, mainly because we were just learning so much that it was like so focused on the present that I really hadn't thought much about what that progression actually looked like. And I would say I didn't really have an understanding at that point of what the steps were from like continental, like racing continental cups or racing world cups or racing world triathlon championship series races. So I think that naivety actually benefited me because I just was so focused on just learning the sport and then took each step as it came rather than really having like really knowing, like, besides,
Right.
because I knew like beginning and I knew Olympics, and like that was like mainly my understanding when I first got started. And of course, as I went, I learned more and more about the steps. But when I did my first World Cup the first year, like I didn't really know that was like winning it was actually quite good. Like, like I don't think I recognized that until maybe a little bit later.
So was there one race where you realized, okay, I can be competitive with some of these people are, I guess they represent other countries. They're supposedly the best from that country, and I'm right here with them.
I think maybe at the end of like 2013, my first
Yeah.
year racing as a professional, but probably not really until like 2014. Um and then like just becoming like getting my head more wrapped around like what am I actually, like what is this pathway actually look like. And um it was really grateful because I feel like having Gwen and having Sarah both be racing at the highest level and doing really well and being like on multiple podiums, it was a really good thing to see that and to be like, okay, this is what they're doing, and like I believed I could get there. Like that was the goal, was to get there too.
Exactly. And so then the process becomes, okay, let's get to the Olympics. We got Rio coming up. This is going to be hopefully my first Olympic team. And you end up, you make the Olympic team. And again, it wasn't one of those things a year out from the games and you qualify on the test event. It's like, okay, it comes down to nail biting time. And am I going to get accepted? Am I going to get put in or not? And you do. And you go to Rio, and that course is so unique and so different because there's very few times that we have some big monster hill in the middle of an Olympic course. And that, so what was that first Olympic experience like?
I think my immaturity at the highest level as a triathlete really like was exposed there because I'd actually won my first World Triathlon Championship Series race in Hamburg. It was literally the race before the Olympics. So I
Right.
went in, and I'd been on podiums before that. So I went in thinking a lot about being a podium contender, but like getting and trying to treat the Olympics in a way as like really tunnel visioned on it still being another race. And I think I just got so nervous and lost sight of like all the processes, like the specifics rather than the outcome.
Right.
And the course, like you're saying, like for me, my background is swimming and running, and cycling. I like pretty much from the start I was really strong, but like without much skill or like technical awareness, I guess. And so for me, when I saw the Rio course, there's a really steep uphill. and people were talking about that, but like what was more concerning to me was the downhill on the other side.
Right.
And it wasn't like I'd love to go do it again now and see if it's as fear inducing as it was then. But I just got so caught up in that downhill and being so nervous about it that I really just forgot all about my strengths and was just like so focused on the piece that I couldn't do. Then I got to run and it was like I was actually in the front group.
Yeah, you
and
were.
when I got to the run, I think I just thought so much about the hill that I had lost sight of like the race as a whole. And I
Right.
didn't have a very good run that day. I finished up 18th. But that being said, that was the most like it was really a catalyst, I think, for me for like, okay, like I'm not just doing this anymore. I'm not just learning triathlon anymore. Like I need to start taking like ownership. I need to figure out my process. I need to figure out like the mental side of things. I need to like what do I need to do to make myself get to the level where I'm not just like naively doing well, but it's like a
Yeah.
purpose.
Well, you know what's fascinating about that? Usually, that first Olympics, when Gwen went in 2012, and I think she flatted and she ended up back. When she went in 16, she was there for business, right?
Yeah.
She had was riding on the back of a motorcycle, going up and down hills that were very similar to that course, doing simulations and things like that. So it was business. And so after 16, and when I look at the business you did, you were, in 2015, you were fifth in the World Series, and then the following year, fourth, then third, then second, then first. So you're becoming more and more professional, more and more proficient at your profession. Did you feel that after Rio? Okay, now it's time for me to become the best in the world.
For sure. Like I think I felt like by taking a little bit of ownership in it and like less of like just coming along for the ride, I guess
Yes.
is what
Yeah.
it felt like in the beginning was like I was like on a train that was moving and then like I still it was like creating the network around me who was best going to support me to being the best that I could possibly be and then working on myself internally in the sense of like the mental side of things, but also like physically, how do I get the most out of myself? And it was just like putting all those pieces together with a lot more intent than I felt like I did for those first like 2 years or 2 or 3 years.
Right. So then after that Olympics is over, then focus becomes Tokyo. And then if I think if the Olympics were held in when it was supposed to be in 2020, I mean, you were do you feel the year lost was a good thing for you or a bad thing for you?
Oh yeah, it wasn't where I thrived. I definitely had was like building into 2019
Yes.
and then 2020 hit and I felt like I lost a lot of momentum. And also, again, it was just like not really knowing what that year was going to look like, trying to balance like still staying fit and staying focused, but also knowing like, okay, but now I have to be able to sustain this energy and this physical caliber for like another year. And like
Yeah.
we all count down or like are counting towards however you want to look at it we think in quads so like
Yes.
when that quad becomes 5 years like it's actually like feels significantly longer and then that was complicated by the fact of like losing my dad
Yeah.
um so I think between like covid and the loss of my dad that it was like a very yeah I just lost a lot of momentum, a lot of traction, and um, no, I would say I never really got back to the level I was in 2019.
Well, 2019, you win back-to-back Bermuda, Yokohama. You're on fire. So if the Olympics happen 2020, you're you were a favorite anyways, but probably a more realistic favorite to potentially win the gold medal there that year. So dad passes away. You have to at that point, you're still trying to make the team. And it comes down to it's Taylor Spivey. They're going to make a selection, and it was controversial. People were like, I mean, poor Katie, she lost her dad, but at the same time, she hasn't raced well since. Is she going to be a factor in Tokyo? And then you get selected, and you obviously feeling the loss and feeling the pressure that, okay, did they choose the right person? I need to perform and show that. I'm guessing getting the bronze, there was a lot of relief, obviously jubilation, but just relief over everything that you had dealt with leading into that, and people doubting and people questioning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean that, and I think there's like the questioning of other people, but also the questioning of myself because like it was unknown territory for me and I hadn't like I get a lot of confidence from my performance. I get a lot of confidence from preparation and my preparation was not great. I mean, my dad passed away in April and
Yes.
yeah, the Olympics was what the end of July. And so it wasn't a lot of time. And then within that, I raced. I didn't do very well at those races, but I can remember we were having like a like discussion with USAT, and Joel was by
Yeah.
my side, and we were having a conversation of like basically just seeing where I was at. And I was so confident during that I was going to be ready. And it was like this moment of clarity that sometimes I call like God moments that I'm like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
But like I was really glad I had it because I think I needed to feel that. Like I
Yep.
needed to feel that confidence. And luckily, with how like the world is right now, like you can be as tuned in to criticism as you want to be, or you can also have some like blissful ignorance. And I really tried, and Joel really helped facilitate just like focusing on the work we're putting in on the day to day. If I get selected for the team, I get selected. If I don't get selected for the team, like we pivot, we do something different. It's not the end all be all in any way, but either way, the process is the same. We're just trying to get you to be back and the best that I could possibly be. And I really appreciate that was Joel's like vision and that he really helped to just keep me focused on the right thing and not feel like anything was like a big loss, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. I mean, yeah, I remember going into race day just the thing because it was unknown, right? How's Katie going to do her last couple races? 15th, 18th, they were not where you wanted to be and not where your training said you should be, but mentally dealing with the fact that the dad had just passed. I mean, we're talking dad passed in April and the race, like you said, it's July. Well, that's not a lot of time. Uh, on race day, there was a point where it was raining, there was a rainbow, and you had a gut that the dad was there, sort of overseeing your day.
Yeah, I mean that was I think just in general, like so one of my biggest panics before the race was that my swims hadn't been that very good in the two races leading up to it. And we had been, I think it was even just right before the race in the warm up, like me, Jess, Summer, we were like, maybe Georgia was there too. We were practicing like our starts or our dive ins and like what's like the ideal situation here. And so when I dove in when the race started and I slotted into like, I think I was like third on the feet. And I'm like, no way is this going to be as smooth as this is. And I'd been far right and I looked far left and there was nobody there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And like, so like, it was like the ideal setup to the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
And so then as I'm racing, like, I'm already taking that like good vibe, good feeling, like into the rest of it. And then partway through the bike, I remember like looking up and seeing the rainbow and just thinking like, oh, hey, dad. And I like thought about it for like not a super long time, but then after the race I was like, oh, did you see the rainbow, to like other people in the race, and they're like, you saw it? Like they were like surprised I saw this rainbow while I was racing, and not like, oh, after you see the picture and you're like, oh, that was there, I didn't see it. And so I felt like it, not just it being there but me actually noticing it, was kind
Yes.
of just a sign from my dad like, hey, I'm here. And um yeah, just a moment within the race that I kind of took in.
Yeah. Well, and then you guys got it down, you whittled it down so there wasn't it was a smaller group going into the run, and you're like, I think you were second, and then Georgia came by, and then Flora's off the front. And there's such a camaraderie between the top women and the top guys, but they all know what you're going through, and Flora's standing there at the finish. And that was really one of my favorite photos of the games because she was there for you, and you guys had been good buddies for a lot of years, and you've both done something great. You've gotten the bronze, which must have felt like a gold, and she got the gold, which is something she'd been, working for so many years. So what was that feeling like, just seeing her there as you're coming towards the finish?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just amazing. And I think I've always had an appreciation for the triathlon community. I've felt very supported since the beginning. But like after my dad passed away, like one of the most impactful feelings was just racing and having people like hold and support you and like care for you when you're having like your lowest moment, and you're like really racing, like they don't care how well I do. Like
No.
that's like for me to care about. And I think when I went to Tokyo, that was like the biggest feeling I had, like pre, post, during, whatever, during the whole Olympics, was just like such a gratitude for each person who like was just there for me during the hardest time and supporting me and like caring about me. And it wasn't caring about like the performance. And for Flora, she just knew like how much like I'd worked to like be there. And I mean, I respect her and like really enjoy racing her, really enjoy being around her. And I just feel like that's like how I feel with like so many people on the start line, is you become friends
Of course.
over my career. And to be able to like celebrate, like, well, for her to celebrate me but also like celebrate her too,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
really yeah, it's really special.
So the mixed relay, and was Tokyo the first mixed relay in the Olympics?
It was inaugural.
Inaugural. And that's so cool because at that point, you're playing with house money. You already got your medal, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, you certainly want to win. You certainly want to get a medal in the mixed relay, but I'm guessing a lot of the pressure that you were feeling was gone. No, not really. You guys won because you want to win the mixed relay too, first ever.
Yeah, and the relay's stressful because you're part of a team. Like if I let myself down in the individual, like okay, that's disappointing. But like if I let a team down,
Oh,
like
good point. Yeah,
that's
that's
you
a
don't want to be that person.
no. We would have gotten the gold except for, oh my
Yeah,
God, I know.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so the guys get the silver in the first ever. So then you come away from that Olympics, which you didn't know you were going to make, with a silver and a bronze, and you're still the only American with a individual medal and a relay medal. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, the being a part of that relay, I think was really, I mean, people ask like, "Oh, what's the best thing you've done in your career?" And that like that's like a super tough question for me. And when it's like individual versus mixed relay medal, you're
Yeah.
like, "Well, this is impossible too." But like I felt like the team we had was like so support, like we had such a good relationship
Yep.
in that race, and a lot of us had overcome something to be there.
Right.
And I mean, you could argue that for every single person on the start line, but I just felt like it was a race makeup that maybe people wouldn't have expected, like in the years leading into the race. And the dynamic was really good.
Oh yeah, yeah, no. I mean, what Kevin had lymphoma. You just lost your dad. I mean, yeah, there was a lot going on with your team and
Yeah.
Taylor and Morgan. That was a great team. So after then obviously the goal becomes to go for another Olympics. It becomes 2024, and just everything leading in. Oh, actually, even taking a step back, I remember we chatted when this whole Super League thing was first starting. Chris McCormick had this idea, and then you end up winning 2 titles in the Super League series, and that was so novel. The whole concept of Super League and dropping them in the major cities, and the format's different, and each time. Did you enjoy the Super League, that whole concept? Because you're watching something come to life. The athletes were treated as professionals in a lot of ways, from the from the way they took care of you guys, financially, and coming into a city and having places for you to train. It was probably a little different experience for you.
Yeah, it's very different than world triathlon racing, but I love it. And it's really evolved over the years. And I think they might have been trying to kill us in the first couple of years, because before we would do, now I don't even remember what we did. It just felt like we raced all weekend and we didn't get breaks. That's what that's what
Yeah.
but it was like back to back of like back to back days of racing the formats that we've now like done these last couple years, but you would have 2 days of it, not just one. And
Right.
it's just such a um relentless and unforgiving style of racing, and I just love it because it really exposes your weaknesses, and it really makes it such an honest race. Like you're not going to succeed at super tri, or if you're not a well-rounded triathlete. Like you need to be strong across the board, you need to be adaptable, you need to be able to like manage uh like the fatigue and the mental side of things. And it's just, I feel like it's just one that is so physically demanding and mentally demanding, and then on top of that they're able to create this really cohesive group of athletes with at the race venues, and like being able to mix with all the other countries. Because like when we go to world triathlon races, a lot of us are just staying with like our specific country and our federation, and like you see each other, but you're not really like intermingling. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you're all staying in different hotels, and it's just a different experience. Whereas with super tri, you're all staying in the same hotel. Like you're all the preparation, all the training, it's all happening like with each other. And so that aspect of it I love, and the community aspect of like going out in the communities, whether it's going to schools or doing something with the like tourism
Yep.
uh, council or whatever. It's just like it's a very intimate experience, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
And you finished up your career with Toulouse this
Yeah,
last weekend
yeah,
on
yeah.
Team USA.
Yes, yeah, they did amazing. I'm glad I could put forth some points for us.
Like you said, that is pressure when you're on a team to feel
Oh,
like you're bringing something to the table.
yeah, and for the first three races, I felt like I brought nothing to the table. So it was good good to do at least a little something.
I think you raised very well there. This year, obviously, the goal was to get back to the Olympics. How tough was that not being selected?
Uh, it's tough in a sense that I think in a different way than people might imagine, because like that was my main goal in coming back.
Sure.
And I think I put forth a good effort towards it, and I got close enough to like keep going for it. But like when it ultimately came down to the selection, I knew I hadn't done the thing that would make it a glaringly obvious pick. And so I didn't really like I didn't know how the selection would go when it came down to discretionary. But when I wasn't selected, I was like disappointed, of course, but I wasn't necessarily like super
Yeah.
like caught off guard by it, I
Right.
suppose is the best way to describe it. And I think the hardest part that I struggled with was I didn't realize how much that was kind of my ultimate goal. So like once that passed and I wasn't selected, it was like being selected, like I said, it was disappointing, but more so is like, wait, like what am I doing now?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out that part, and still having like the season left, but having like a choice of like, well, what do I want to do? And so I think that was the more challenging part, was actually like afterwards just kind of
Yes.
resetting and trying to like sort through next steps.
So after giving birth to Kimball, how tough was it to okay, I'm a professional triathlete. I got to go back to work. Just getting back into training, change, your body changes and having to deal with all of that. Just getting back, and it's not everybody's different and everybody has different issues. How hard was that for you?
So for me, the physical demands of like getting back into things was probably the easiest part for me. And I was very fortunate in that. The harder part was trying to figure out the right balance for myself as both like trying to make it back at the highest level while also like doing the mom life the way that I kind of wanted to and that felt good to me, while also like the part that I really didn't anticipate, which I maybe it's silly in hindsight, but like I didn't realize how I'd be like starting at ground zero of like moving up again through like the point system. And
Yes.
um that part I like was unprepared for because no time in my career like until after Kimball had I like really done that, because when I started it's just like expected, like I just like very smoothly like just worked my way up, and it was in a way that like was developmentally appropriate for me, so I wasn't trying to like skip ahead, like
Right.
I was
Right.
trying to be where I was at and just continuously move up. Whereas after Kimball it's like I had been at this spot, and now going like now having to like work my way back to there again, that was really challenging. And then also combined with all the things that had led me to be successful with like Joel and being in the daily training environment and training with Tommy, like that was kind of also just like flipped on its head because I wanted to be home.
Yeah,
So
of
like
course.
home was where we primarily based ourselves, and we did go to a few camps and they were amazing. But like for me, trying to figure out a new pathway to success was really really hard. And like now Tommy's working for USA Triathlon, and also at that in the early stages like we were just like he would be taking care of Kimball, like
Right.
we were so like he was a very crucial part of my progress, and training with him was a huge reason in being like successful, was having him as like a training buddy. So it was just like trying to find a new process that would work, and that those between trying to climb up the rankings and trying to like figure out a new system, those were probably the hardest parts.
So now that like you said, you're retired, and actually one of my favorite memories from your career is when you came over to Samarin for the for Collins Cup, really with you really spend no time on a TT bike, and it's just like sort of jumping in a little blind, and nobody swims on Lucy Charles' feet, but here you are, like do 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 do. I think I'll just swim right behind her. That's not a problem. And we're all like with our mouths open. Katie is swimming right on Katie's feet. She's going to be great at this longer distance. I can't wait. This is going to be so much fun watching Katie. She's going to do this, then she's going to go do 70.3, and then she'll do Ironman. And you're like going, this is a sort of a fun little vacation thing, but this really isn't something that I want to be doing. What was your takeaway from that experience?
See, I really like, especially, I never really saw myself doing Kona or like Ironman distance. I mean, people, I
That
remember
was
going
me.
to Kona to watch. Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, you're gonna catch the Ironman bug," and I think like more so, I was like, "Ooh, I never want to do like this is not my style." Like I have so much respect for the distance and the athletes who are doing it, but like I know, like I was pretty sure that's not what I like was aiming for or like wanted, like it didn't really seem enticing to me. The mid distance is one that like I actually would be interested, but I just feel really ready to move on
Yep.
from being a professional athlete. Like there's so many benefits of being a professional athlete, and there's so many amazing aspects of living this life. There's also quite a few drawbacks. And a lot of it revolves just around like, well, you have to stay engaged and really want it and really know like what your why is for doing it. And I think for me, that's been the biggest change is like I knew my why until Paris. And then
Yes.
after that, it was like, wait, because I love exercising. I love being active. I love swimming and biking and running. But I think now there there's a piece of me that like want to do longer distance and wants to want to do T100 in the middle distance. But I think I've just realized like actually it's okay that I don't. and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and so that's really the main reason is I just feel ready to not be the professional athlete anymore.
Yeah.
And
I, I totally,
yeah,
it's funny. I
I
remember
ran out
talking.
of time.
I remember talking to Hunter Kemper after his 4 Olympics. Okay, it's time. You're gonna move up, and he goes, "If I have to carry a gel, I'm out. I don't want to be
Yeah.
eating while I race so that I can go eat and do other stuff. I don't want to be eating and worried about what I'm drinking and all this type of stuff during a race. I don't want to be out there that long." I'm like, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
That's you.
That's me. A different reason, I think. I think I've just run out of like the competitive steam.
Well, it's been, like I said, you competed all through college at Steeple and then moved into triathlon, and it's been over a decade, right? That you've done this. That's a long time to have a career as an endurance athlete. You've done it. So what is next?
Yeah.
Mom, obviously.
Well, I just applied for a job with USA Triathlon, so maybe that'll come to fruition. There's a opportunity to be a project podium coach on the East Coast.
Sweet.
And
It's a great idea.
so something that I was realizing towards like the end of my career was just that um I was starting to look at the other side of like so like non-Stanford, she's coaching with GB right now, and like
Right.
another friend of mine and training partner, Emma Box, she's looking at like working also in the realm of triathlon.
Mhm.
And I realized my passion for triathlon is not nearly finished. It's just me racing. And I feel like something I've always felt really drawn towards is being able to like share my experiences and share what I've learned. So, and I've felt very impacted by how I got started in the sport and
Mhm.
how Joel has coached me. I think I've been coached by the best world
Yeah.
triathlon coach, basically, maybe in the history of
Yeah.
triathlon. And I'd really like to go on the other side of being impactful in USA Triathlon and kind of being a part of someone else's journey and helping to guide them to get the most out of themselves and really be competitive at the highest level. And um, so that's like what I look towards being able to do. Um,
Awesome.
and we'll see.
I love it. Okay, it's been a real treat to cover the career, and we've had a lot of conversations going back to when you first got into this silly stuff, and just watching you mature as an athlete, and just watch you be on the podium in Tokyo, and just everything you've accomplished, coming back from crash. I think it was in Tokyo where you crashed and needed I don't know how many stitches in your mouth, and Yokohama, and you were the comeback kid. You had these awful things that happened, and you came back stronger than ever. And I think as a coach, you certainly have done it all. As an athlete, you've done it all, and you can bring that to coaching, which what makes a great coach.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, I think just there's been a lot of pieces of my career, I guess. And
Yes,
it's been really, I'm really thankful for all the like guidance I've had along the way because it's certainly wouldn't have been able to do it without that support.
love it. Thank you so much for taking so much time. It has been a treat to go down memory lane and chat a little bit about all the different stuff that's happened to you. It's funny as an athlete, you sort of have this microcosm where people live over, 50, 60 years of a career. And then you have them in a decade, in 10 years,
Yeah.
didn't know what the hell, can't spell triathlon, to next thing you know, you're going to the training center. Next thing you know, you're going to the Olympics. Next thing you know, you're coming home with a bronze and a silver. And next thing you know, you're a mom and ready to retire. So it has been a treat to cover your career. And I love the fact that you bring so much to the table and represent our sport so well.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me.
Katie Zaferes has been our guest again, everybody. And please give my best to Tommy, one of my favorite people in the world. Again, Breakfast with Bob, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.